these three approaches to our Dharma life, three approaches to our lives that Subhuti outlined in that article that he wrote back in 2003, 2004. And we have development, surrender, and discovery. So this morning we explored a bit development, and we did that meditation where we were setting up the conditions for deeper or more fulfilling states to arise. Yeah, so that's all we can do. We can't sort of develop ourselves directly, but we can always just be setting up conditions so that we grow a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. We have to kind of treat ourselves like plants, sort of make sure that we have what we need in order to flourish. And then I also talked a bit about surrender, which is the more sort of development is more active, I have to do it approach. Surrender is more receptive, more open, and we're opening to the embodiments of the qualities of awakening. So whereas practices that are focused on development might be mindfulness of breathing, metta bhavana, the surrender approach would be more puja, would be sadhana, where all the members you'll know have a visualization practice, where you're visualizing a Buddha or Bodhisattva in front of you. That would be very much this sort of surrender approach. And so we did that meditation before lunch where we went to see the Buddha, and we found him in that forest clearing, and we sat with him, and whatever happened between you and him happened. So that kind of approach, apart from anything else, I find it incredibly sort of heart-opening, because in relations with other people, very often we find there are limits to how far we're prepared to fully kind of give and how far we're fully going to allow ourselves to receive. With another person, even if we really like them, even if we really care about them, very often we don't feel kind of completely secure and completely at ease. And so we just kind of keep little barriers there, we'll go this far, but we won't go any further, thank you, because we're not quite sure what would happen if we did. Yeah. But when we practice with, say, the Buddha or Tara or whatever figure it is, we don't need to hold back at all. Yeah. We can express as much love and devotion as we can find in our heart. And we can also receive as much love and care and kindness. We can allow ourselves to be completely seen, completely received, completely taken in. And there is absolutely no downside to that, because we're dealing with an awakened being. We're dealing with the fullness of patience and love and understanding and wisdom and so on. We're dealing with a figure that will be endlessly supportive. So it's this kind of practice is fantastic for our hearts, because we can fully let them open. Yeah. We can fully let go. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much, just and we can fully receive. We can just bathe, bask in that kind of sun of love that is an awakened being. So it's fantastic. It's a practice. It's really, really Wonderful. So those two practices, those two views, those two myths, as Subhuti calls them, they're both seeing awakening and the qualities of awakening as outside us. When we develop, do the practice develop mental model, to call it that, we're not enlightened yet. Awakening is sort of down the end of the path there, and we have to develop and work and produce this mental state and eradicate that mental state until we finally get there. So it's somewhere over there in the future. And with the surrender approach, we're in touch with freedom, we're in touch with compassion, we're in touch with deep peace and so on, which is great. But still those qualities are out there. They're out there in front of us or out there above us. So they're outside. And I was using the image of the four-armed Avalokiteshvara, and the two outer arms were the lotus, symbolizing that development, and the mala, on which you do mantras and so on, and devotion, symbolizing surrender. But you can also have a view that all these awakened qualities are really here, right in the depths of our being. All the awakened qualities are right here, and that would take us into the myth, the view of discovery. So I want to spend a few minutes exploring that. And the idea that awakening and those qualities are in here is something which became quite strong in sort of some later forms of Buddhism. But actually, even if you go right back to the Pali Canon account of the Buddha gaining enlightenment, awakening, you find it. So if you go back to the Arya Pariyesana Sutta, where the Buddha's awakening is described, he gains awakening, he sees how things are, and he thinks, oh, it's going to be so difficult to communicate that to others. It goes so against the grain of how most people live and what they believe in and how they work with their minds, that maybe I won't teach. But then great compassion, sort of symbolized by this figure Brahma Sahampati, appears and shows the Buddha a number of, gives him a vision of how at least some people will be able to understand. And one of the images that's used is of people being like lotuses. So they're at different stages of development. So some are more sort of down in the mud. They find it very difficult to see how things are at all. Others are growing up through the mud. Some are up through the water. Some are almost ready to kind of open out into the sunlight of awakening. So they're almost there. So that image is a sort of development image. We develop out of the mud, through the water, finally into the sunlight. But then the other image that's used is some people have their eyes really sort of covered with dust. They really can't see anything at all. But there are others who just have like a thin kind of layer of like, little dust particles. And if you could just clear those, then they would really see how things are. So that image is very much one of discovery. It's like, the potential to see how things are is already here. It's really clear, but it's just a bit obscured. So that way of looking at things seems to go a long way back. It's not just a later Buddhist development. So this way of looking at things is saying, well, okay, within our own minds, within our own heart mind, there are either the qualities are already there present and we just need to sort of clear things away, or actually we don't even need to clear things away, but we'll come to that in a minute. One of the advantages of this view, this myth, and we said this morning, I said this morning, that none of these views are exactly how it is, which means we can, any of them we can take up. They're all true to a reasonable extent. So whichever of them we find really helpful, we can take up and use in our practice. So one of the really helpful things about this view is that it counteracts the tendency that seems to be so common in the West, that we feel like actually, when it comes down to it, we're not up to much. Yeah, even that there's something really kind of like deep down, there's something the matter with us, or, you know, sort of within the sort of Christian tradition, you have a sense of, you know, there's a sort of sinfulness that's there, that's you know, sort of has to be sort of worked out. This view is saying, actually, we're amazing. Our heart mind, when it functions as it should, is full of qualities, is full of riches. We are extraordinary, but we've lost touch with it. We've just lost touch with it, and that's tragic, but it's as if those qualities have been covered over. So we need to discover the qualities, but it's a really affirming way to practice. It's based on a sense of something really positive. It's the difference, maybe. Yeah, it's a bit like if you take the development view, you haven't got any money much, and you have to kind of go out and earn it. Yeah. If you take the surrender view, you haven't got very much money, but you've got this really rich sort of aunt or uncle who you just have to go and find. And once you've kind of got in communication with them, you find that they're incredibly generous, and they're really, yeah, of course they'll help you out. Yeah, you need the, what, you need the deposit for a new place? Okay, yeah, of course. With this view, with discovery, you've got somewhere in the place where you live is this incredible buried treasure. It's sort of hidden away somewhere, but you're already actually tremendously rich. You just have to find it. Yeah. And it's a very different kind of approach to being a human being. Yeah. It's a very, as I say, it's very, I think it can be very confidence building. Yeah. Because it's saying that fundamentally, yeah, fundamentally our minds are open, clear, loving, but they've got, those qualities have got covered over. We've sort of lost track of what our minds are like. Using the traditional language, these qualities of mind are covered over by what are called adventitious defilements. Adventitious means that they're not inherent. It's not that we're in ourselves on this deep level, you know, there is anything the matter with us. It's not that on the deep level we're really sort of, you know, these terrible beings who are, you know, jealous or ignorant or hateful or grasping. All that is just coming out of a mistake of not knowing what our nature really is. So it can really give us a very different view of ourselves, but also of everyone else. Yeah, everyone we can see in all these boxes. It's true for all of us. Yeah, we all have a heart mind that in itself is just open, loving, free, knowing, but to different degrees. We've lost track of that. Yeah, so we've become sort of narrowed down to thinking of ourselves as quite limited, separate from everything and everyone else. Yeah, I'm sort of me somewhere in here at the center of things, but cut off from everyone and everything else. And actually, it's only that view that we've taken on that prevents things from really opening out. Yeah, that prevents us from finding the treasure, to put it like that. So this view can be very helpful. It can be very affirming. It's sort of affirming of life, affirming of beings. Yeah, it's like if when we meet other people, we have some sense that that's really what they're like, but they've kind of lost track of it to some degree, and because of that, they're suffering. It gives us quite a different view of them, and we can actually relate to those kind of qualities in them. Yeah, we can relate to that sense of that sort of jewel. I was using Avalokiteshvara's wish-fulfilling jewel as the symbol for discovery. This approach can have its difficulties, and Sangharakshita Bhante, he was quite wary of people taking this view literally and thinking that, yes, they had Buddha nature, so they were already a Buddha, they were already awakened, so they didn't need to do anything. Yeah. It's a very kind of intellectual kind of approach to things, because you only have to kind of look at your experience for a few minutes to discover that if you're awakened, then how come you're suffering like this? Yeah, how come you know, life still seems to kind of have so many sharp edges and so much friction in your experience as you go through a day. Yeah. But yes, over the course of the centuries, there were some teachers who kind of presented Buddha nature as if there was an entity called Buddha nature, which was eternal. There's a Tibetan teacher called Dolpopa in the 13th century who kind of really went for this approach. But we don't need to see it that like this, you know, some kind of entity that's Buddha nature. All we have to do is think that there are two ways in which our minds can function. One is the way that it usually functions when it's kind of lost track of its nature, which is it's centered around me in here. And as soon as there's me in here separate from everyone else, as soon as I'm focused on my little box separate from all the rest of you on the screen, then I feel uneasy. And so I experience frustration and upset. And so then I start pushing and pulling at life to somehow kind of ease the frustration of that sense of separation, of being kind of cut off from life. Yeah. So everything comes out of that basic misunderstanding about who we are. So there's one way of operating, which is this kind of closing in around me in here, which causes suffering. Or if we manage to let that go, if we start to be able to trust the nature of our mind, at that point we can relax. And what we discover is that the more our mind relaxes, the more positive qualities just appear. And with deep relaxation, all kinds of really, really positive qualities appear. So it's not that we have to create, sort of this thing called Buddha nature, which we have to find. We just have to discover that our mind can operate in a different way from how it often does, which can be really, really open. So rather than just me sort of focusing on my little box and thinking that's me and everyone else is over there, I can just relax out of that. And it's like I just take in the whole screen. And there's Sarah and her cat, and there's Maitri Darshan, and there's this person. But I don't feel, I needn't kind of create any sense of separation. The more I relax, the less separate I feel. And we discover this in communication with people. If we sit down opposite somebody we don't know very well, often we're thinking, well, what are they thinking about me? And am I all right here? But then we discover that they're kind of friendly and they're interesting and interested. And we start to relax and the communication starts to flow. And that sense of me in here and them over there just sort of softens. It gets softer and softer and softer. Yeah? And it could even just disappear altogether. So this approach really involves kind of trusting the nature of mind, in a way trusting life, not in a naive way, we still look after ourselves, relaxing more and more into this way of being, relaxing out of that sort of selfing way of being where everything revolves around, am I okay? And I'm somehow the center of the universe. We relax more and more out of that. And as we do that, we discover that naturally, when mind isn't being asked to do this unnatural thing of closing in on itself, when it's allowed to just be open, we discover that all kinds of qualities of generosity and love and patience and so on, they seem to just seem to be there. They just seem to arise. Okay. So let's do a little bit of meditation and let's do that. Okay. So as we have been doing, starting by finding a point of freedom. So sense of nothing to do at all. Now, as we were doing this morning, setting up conditions. So starting by taking our awareness down to the earth. Entrusting ourselves to the earth, really giving it our weight. And letting the body grow up out of the earth. So we really take our full height, our full space. With this view of things, the body is like a treasure chest. It has within it all kinds of riches. Riches of the Dharma. Bringing awareness into the body, letting the body become a field of kindly awareness. Aware of the sensations, the energy movements. Letting the awareness be quite relaxed, not trying to get anywhere. No need to make a big deal out of anything. Just really feeling what's here in a kindly way. Flow of experience, the flow of life. Now let's focus on our heart center. So that kind of inner place that isn't quite a place, in the center of the chest, that place where we feel deeply. If somebody says, my heart went out to them, or in my heart I knew what I really wanted, that place. And now I invite you to imagine, to feel, to sense that in that heart space are all the qualities of awakening. If you want, they can be embodied. We could have the Buddha in our heart, or some other figure, Tara, Avalokiteshvara. Or we can just have a sense of those qualities. That love, that wisdom, that peace, that freedom, that energy, and so on. The deep source of them is deep in our heart. Let's just sit with that for a minute or two. Now, we could imagine that from our heart center, with those qualities embodied or just the sense that they're there, there's an influence that completely fills us. Maybe we'd like to imagine light coming from our heart, filling our body, going really into the depths of our being, and completely dissolving away all our everyday anxieties, frictions, hopes and fears, frustrations, everything which prevents these qualities from permeating our lives. Now, when we're ready, letting go of doing anything, just sitting, being with experience as it is. How is it now? And finishing with the thought of sharing the benefits of the practice with all of us here, and with all the endless beings who are living their lives not realizing the riches, the potential of their own heart minds. Take me back to page 1. Okay. So now we're going to break into small groups if you'd like to, and we'll have half an hour. If you want to stop a few minutes before the end and have a drink or whatever, that's up to you to just arrange in your small group. So we'll be divided up. There are some groups, I'm sure some groups will just do whatever you want to do, which is fine. If you want to have something to focus the discussion around, there are some questions you could take up. One is, are you naturally drawn to one or another of these myths, these views? Another one could be, are there any that you tend to reject or dismiss? And if so, why? And then the third one could be something like, can you see any way in which you could enrich your Dharma life by including elements of all of them, or more elements of all of them? Yeah. So any that you're particularly drawn to, any that you kind of don't trust, don't appreciate, and why? And yeah, this is a way in which you could produce a Dharma life which was really incorporating them. Okay, so it's just gone 20 past now. So let's aim to be back at 10 to, most of us at least. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed your time together. And in this last little bit, I've got one question, and also want to look at a little bit more into discovery, because discovery is sometimes broken into two aspects. Dharmakara. Are you're yeah. You should have a little diagram there that you could put up for people. Which
is it? The one with four plots?
It's the one with 4 squares. Yeah, it's did. We just let the riches come to us. Yeah. And this approach is called the emergence approach. We let the qualities emerge. So what do we have to do to let the qualities emerge? Well, fundamentally, we have to trust our mind that when we just really relax and don't interfere, positive qualities will emerge. So when we stop doing the selfing thing, where we're constantly pushing and pulling at our minds, wanting to be more like this, less like that, when we just allow mind to relax and unfold as it were naturally, with deepening practice, then the qualities of awakening appear. So this approach, it's all about trusting the nature of mind. Trusting that when we don't create a sense of a me that has to make it all right in some way because somehow we feel like it's all wrong as it is, mind in itself is open, knowing, free, loving. So the practice with this is practice of just sitting. And we sometimes just sit for a few minutes before we do a practice. In a way, that's taking us in the right direction. Sometimes people talk about just sitting as a practice, but the pure sort of just sitting that emergence is about is a just sitting where we're really not trying to do anything or get anywhere, because actually even trying to go deeper into ourselves or even trying to move towards awakening is just more stirring up of things. It's just more ego attempts to solve the problem, when actually the solution lies in a self-forgetting, just a relaxing into how things are moment by moment by moment. Yeah, you get the idea. Okay, so that's our diagram. So you've got outside, inside, active and receptive, and those four. So we could take that away now. So that's good. So I can see more people. Great. Yeah, so from this emergence point of view, even striving for enlightenment is moving in the wrong direction, because it's still about me gaining enlightenment. So it's sort of reinforcing that tendency of mind to sort of focus down on me trying to make myself all right, when what needs to happen is there needs to be just a relaxing so that mind just opens and opens and opens. Okay, you get the idea? So how are we doing for time? Not very long left. Okay. I'll deal with this, my one question from the day, unless there's been any more since I last looked. No more?
There's one more. Yeah.
There's one more. Oh, okay. Okay. So there's scarcity to everyone saying, I'm interested to hear something about emergence. I'm sorry you waited 3.5 hours for 5 minutes on emergence, but there we are. I'm not sort of stressing that emergence approach and just sitting too much, because it takes usually quite a lot of other practice to stabilize the mind enough that you can usefully do a lot of just sitting practice. At the beginning of or closer to the beginning of your Dharma practice, if you just sit, without giving your mind any supports of, let's focus on this, so that you notice when you drift off. If you just say to mind, well, okay, do whatever you want to do, the tendency is for it to do what it's always done, which is just drift and you go a bit unconscious, and you think about this, and then you think about that, and then 5 minutes passes, and then you come back again. It's not usually, doing a lot of just sitting is best done after you've kind of established a certain degree of sort of stability in your meditation practice. But it's really good to do, before you do a practice, and it's really good to do a short period at the end of a practice. Yeah, so okay, you've made this good, you've set up these good conditions, and so now without feeling like you've still got to keep doing anything, you just sit and experience things as they are, mind as it is, and you enjoy, you sort of savor whatever's there. Yeah, it's a good balance, because very often if we're doing practices where we're always developing things, meditation becomes sort of associated with working in meditation. And we want a balance between, yes, okay, gently, kind of sensitively kind of working to set up good conditions, and other times where there's just openness, we're just free, we just experience what it's like when we're not giving our mind a task. Yeah. What's it like when we've just torn up our to-do list and we're just here? How are we when we're just here? Before we say, right, oh, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. How is it when we're just being, before we start asking anything of ourselves? Okay, so let's have a quick look at these questions. So Andrew was asking, is there there was a previous one, wasn't there?
There is a previous one. There's 2 from Andrew, and now there's a new one.
Okay, let's go to Andrew's previous one quickly.
Previous one.
Yeah. So is there a source or cause of the adventitious defilements with discovery? So I was saying, with this model, awakening is all the qualities are in here. Yeah, they're within us. But it's as if they're covered over. But they're adventitious, not quite advantageous. They're not very advantageous at all, defilements. Adventitious means that they're just dependent on conditions, which means that when those conditions change, they disappear. Yeah. Why are they there in the first place? Well, the basic thing is that mind has just lost track of its own nature and has become identified with this body mind, this bit of experience here, and has turned everything else into other. That's the basic mistake that it's made. Yeah. And once we've made that basic mistake, we get frustrated, we get scared, we feel outnumbered by life, and that creates all the other kind of defilements and complications. How it is that mind has sort of lost track of itself and made that basic mistake, it goes way back, and you can theorize about it, but it's one of those things which the Buddha would tell us not to waste our time thinking about, really, because we can look in this moment. Yeah, in this moment, somehow we're recreating this basic mistake. Somehow right now, we're creating a sense of, I'm back here and you're all out there. Yeah. And that's not how it is. Yeah, we're sort of putting something onto our experience, which means we're seeing it like that right now. So how are we doing that? That's the really interesting question. And is it possible not to do that? And how is it when we don't do that? Or is more a mental model that starts with a more full rather than, is it more of a mental model that starts with a more full rather than a lacking perspective? Well, it's not just a mental model, it is pointing at something, the way in which we kind of create difficulties for ourselves through our misunderstanding. But it certainly is a model which is, gives us a sense of riches and value, which tends to enable us to be more relaxed and less tense, and that's a good starting place. Yeah. Okay, another one. is there an approach to selecting a bodhisattva, or is it just try and see which one resonates? And how fixed is a bodhisattva selection? Or is it more whatever works comes to mind at certain times, a development approach, surrender approach, a discovery approach to a bodhisattva connection, perhaps? Okay. Well, to start with, when we start working with these figures in this sort of, particularly in this sort of surrender mode, I think it's good that we just open ourselves to different figures. It's quite good to learn about them. There was that really good book. What was? Oh, sorry, I won't go there. Or a series of 3 books now, isn't it? Guides to Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Tantridatas. You could learn. You could just read about these figures and see if any of them speak to you. But in a way, you don't need to select a bodhisattva. It's almost be better if the bodhisattva selected you in some sort of way. That's the best. It's almost like sometimes, it's like one of the main figures that's amongst, I've worked with a lot of different figures over the years. One of them just appeared to me in a dream, and I really didn't have any feeling for that figure whatsoever up until that point. But it's like it's almost like it came and said, no, actually, we've got this connection and let's build on it. So I would I'd get to know them. Don't try them out like, sort of buying pairs of running shoes or whatever, that wouldn't be quite right. But yeah, just a bit like someone that you're trying to get to know. Yeah, you learn a little bit about them, you spend a little time, and then you start finding, oh, actually being with this person, I really enjoy, and it's really helpful. And after I've spent time with them, I feel quite uplifted and really good. So it's the same with the Buddha or Bodhisattva. Yes, I would explore, get to know them, and then if it feels like, oh, you have got a resonance with one figure, okay, well, you can have pictures of that figure around, you can recite the mantra, and see what develops. And if you're relatively new to this kind of practice, it's always good to talk to somebody who has more experience about it too. It can be helpful.
Thanks.
Okay.
The other wasn't a question.
Oh, what the bottom one was? Oh, it's just a statement. Okay. Great. Yeah. Okay. So that was quick zoom around a couple of questions. So I think, yes, I'll say one more quick thing, and then we'll do a short little meditation, just a few minutes, and then that will be it. That will be our time together vanished. Where did it go? I just wanted to talk about these myths and these views. In Triratna, we really put going for refuge to the 3 jewels, very much at the heart of things. And we could also see our going for refuge to the 3 jewels in terms of any of these approaches. So very often if we talk about going for refuge to the 3 jewels, we talk in sort of developmental terms. So if we were going for refuge from a developmental point of view, then be something like inspired by the Buddha, we commit ourselves to using his teaching, his methods, to attain what he attained. So it's possible for me to change, to escape this endless round of suffering by setting up conditions for more and more and more positive states to arise. So you could see going for refuge like that. But you could also see it in, that commitment, that going for refuge as I'm committing myself to Yes, there are deeper qualities beyond what I think of as me, beyond my normal experience, that I can contact and devote myself to. And so now my Going for Refuge focuses on contacting and devoting myself to those deeper qualities. And I can more and more live my life in the service of those awakened beings, in the service of those qualities. Or, third one, if we're going to have four, seeing that these deep qualities aren't outside of us, they're, as it were, inside. Well, they're even inside and outside, the kind of inverted commas, because they're more views that we're adding on to things. These qualities are obscured by our ego clinging. So the commitment would be then to purify the veils, to clear away whatever prevents us from allowing these qualities to naturally unfold within us, to naturally unfold in our lives. And then the fourth way of looking at Going for Refuge would be more this sort of emergence one, where we're committing ourselves to trust the nature of mind and to relax and relax wherever there's ego clinging, wherever we're creating tension, and allow the nature of mind to shine out. Okay, so that was just a little sidetrack, but because Going for Refuge is very central to how we see things, it's probably worth putting what we've done today into those terms. All right, so let's do a few minutes practice to round out the day, and we'll do something that's in the area of sort of discovery and emergence, just to finish with. So just sitting, nothing to do. Chance to relax. Let everything be as it is. Noticing how much happens without us having to control it or make it come about. Everything in the body just happening by itself. The blood flowing, the breath coming and going. all the different physical processes, all just happening. Different bodily sensations, sense of warmth, sense of contact with the ground, all just happening by itself. All the other senses functioning, hearing sounds, no need to create a sense of me that has to do it. All just happens. Thoughts and feelings appear all by themselves. And unless somehow we refer them to a sense of me, decide we're for or against them, and then recreate them or push them away, they just appear and disappear quite naturally. nothing to prove, no one we have to become. We just are life, unfolding moment by moment. No need to have a special experience. We are a special experience. Coming to the end of the meditation, for a moment, just sharing the benefits, the merits of today. With everyone in all the sanghas that are represented here. Sharing the benefits with all beings. And they all find the Dharma. May they all find views of life that are freeing, fruitful, and deeply heart-opening. And may they practice them.
take a moment to bring the meditation to a close. So falls to me a great pleasure to thank Vessantara for a fabulous day. So a day of, clarifying approaches to the Dharma, exploring what works for us, what floats our boat, and hearing from other people. And also, well, very much a Sangha gathering. The Buddha famously said that if you want your community to thrive, meet together in large numbers, and here we are. So strangely, these times of Zoom is working out quite well in that way. And I'd like to thank Vessantara for giving us this opportunity to do just that, to come together in large numbers. And Vessantara has quite a busy teaching schedule, as I think some of us are aware, because I know quite a few people here have been doing retreats with Vessantara. And it's demanding. It's demanding doing these things. So very, very grateful, Vessantara, that you heard our call from Brighton. Come and zoom in for us. And yeah, just really lovely to that everybody's here. I'd also like to say thanks to the team as well, the Buddhist Centre team, Diotana and Damakara, who've done the Zoom tech stuff today. All that business of upskilling, which can be quite stressful, and it goes on because there's always the next thing. So many thanks. Thanks for Gambira, who's done loads of stuff in the office, the publicity and responding to things, and of course Maitri Darshan, our chair, who's really kind of on the ball with trying to get a lot of plates spinning. And so many thanks to everyone who's made it possible, and Vijaya Mala, thanks for your contribution. The day is by donation, and the donations will be shared between Vessantara and the Buddhist Centre. Obviously a donation is a donation, what you can afford. If you can't afford very much, that's absolutely fine. If you can afford a bit more, that's wonderful. It will be greatly appreciated, and the money will be well spent. I think I can guarantee that. So I've posted another link in the chat. Just go on the Buddhist Centre website, there's a donate button. Please don't be put off by the Virgin Giving thing. It's not as bad as it looks, honest gov. Means we get gift aid, which is really worth a lot to us. So I think that's it. So thanks everybody, and go well.
Can I just say thank you to you, Kashti, for sharing, looking after me today and seeing through it all. I also just wanted to mention that as Kashti says, I do quite a lot of retreats. In fact, I think I'm going to see some of you on an order retreat about the mind training, which starts on Thursday. I am doing a couple of online retreats for Rivendell in June, and I just want to mention those, particularly because the first week of those is for people who've just been practicing for a few years. So much of what I do is for order members. I just like to highlight that if you're not an order member, you'd like to be on retreat with me, I really appreciate seeing you on that. So there's a week in June, followed by another week for order members on the Nilakirtan Yadesha. So if you're interested, you'll find all the details on the Rivendell website. I just wanted to mention. And just also wanted to say from my side, it's been really great to see everyone. I've really appreciated the day, appreciated seeing people that I know, but just really enjoyed engaging with all of you. So thanks very much indeed, and hope to see you again.
Thank you, Vessantara. Thank you very much.